To continue our conversation about the upcoming Dobbs case, we are joined on Skype by Marjorie Dannenfelser, president of the Susan B. Anthony List, and Amy Howe. She's a lawyer who has argued 2 cases at the Supreme Court. She co-founded SCOTUS blog and today reports on the Supreme Court at amylhowe.com. Welcome to you both. Amy, I want to go to you first. What is the question the Supreme Court justices will need to examine in Dobbs versus Jackson Women's Health Organization?
So this is a challenge to the Mississippi law that bans almost all abortions after the 15th week of pregnancy. The lower court struck down the law as unconstitutional. So the state of Mississippi came to the Supreme Court and asked the justices to weigh in. In their petition for review, they were asking the justices to review the lower court's ruling, but in their brief on the merits, their brief that they filed in advance of the hearing, which has been set for December 1st, they've asked the Supreme Court to look at whether or not to overrule Roe versus Wade and Planned Parenthood versus Casey, which are the landmark Supreme Court decisions establishing the basic right to an abortion.
Marjorie, and what is your response to that question that justices will consider and whether pre-viability abortion bans are unconstitutional?
Yeah, well, of course, they will ask that question and answer it, which is an incredible success. Even just to this point, they'll answer, is any pre-viability abortion ban is it constitutional? And of course, we believe that it is. We believe, and smarter people like Amy have studied and understand why in constitutional law there is no, the study of it reveals that there is no abortion right found in the Constitution, and yet quite the opposite. Unborn children, we believe, are protected in the Constitution under the 14th Amendment. So the idea that every single state has been banned from legislating on this matter and protecting children and their mothers from the very beginning or at any point along the way has been an outrage that has guaranteed polarization for the last 48 years in our country.
Amy, this case is being characterized as a major abortion case that could overturn Roe versus Wade. From a legal standpoint, do you see it that way, and is it possible?
So it's even the decision, as Marjorie suggested, to hear the case is really significant. The last 2 cases that the Supreme Court heard involving abortion were cases that involved restrictions on abortions, were cases that involving laws that made it harder for women to obtain abortions in Louisiana and Texas. And those were cases in which the lower courts had upheld the laws. And so the abortion providers came to the Supreme Court and asked them to weigh in. In this case, the lower court struck down the law. And so I think the fact that the Supreme Court has even agreed to weigh in is significant. It means that there were 4 justices who wanted to take up this case and think that they probably have a 5th vote to uphold the law.
Marjorie, can you speak to Mississippi Attorney General Lynn Fitch's leadership on the Dobbs case and the significance of her brief? As Amy mentioned, she directly asked the court to overturn Roe.
Yeah, she is truly a model of the modern American woman that anyone would be proud to follow. She just understands the strength and the agency of women to handle situations that may not be perfect. She has communicated that beautifully. She asked very directly, as you say, to overturn Roe versus Wade for all of the strong and right reasons that we know are true, and to give that decision back to the people and express that will and their legislators in the states. I've spent the last 3 days with her, going to the House and the Senate, gathering with pro-life congresswomen from all over the country. Her very direct and compelling communication over and over is that the time has come for women and men and our families and our nation to allow legislators around the country to express the will of their states in their own laws, and that women can handle it along with the help that comes from the ground at pregnancy centers all across the country.
Amy, this is Justice Amy Coney Barrett's first major abortion case. Do we have any indication on how this court might rule, especially following the recent decision on the Texas heartbeat law?
Yeah, so the Texas heartbeat law, it's hard to read too much into it. I think certainly the fact that the court allowed the law to stay in effect while the litigation plays out in the lower courts was significant. As I said, I think that the decision to take up the case is a significant one. I think that, as far as I'm concerned, what I'll be watching for is whether it's sort of how far the court is going to go. Are they going to issue a relatively narrow decision that upholds the law without overruling Roe versus Wade? Or are they going to go ahead and overrule Roe versus Wade?
There's a lot to look forward to on December 1st. Marjorie, we have about a minute left, but I would love to just get your reaction as to what the Biden administration is doing following the Texas heartbeat law. And I know the House is voting this week on the Women's Health Protection Act. Can you speak to that?
In so many ways, this administration is moving further and further away from the majority and even just any semblance of representing the American people, and no position worse than their position on the Women's Health Protection Act, is what they call it. But what it really is, and will be voted on the House without a hearing, is the mandate of abortion up until the birth of the child, and even past in the case of the babies born alive. So this is the Congress is claiming the power to establish that for every single state. Of course, it's a position they want to state as an education point, which is that this is what they stand for. This will not go into effect, but they want everyone to know what the Biden administration and the House of Representatives and the majority of the U.S. Senate stand for right now, and that's what it is. Unfortunately, it's a polarized Democratic Party that can't get to the center on anything.
A lot of news. Grateful for both of your expert voices, Marjorie Dannenfelser and Amy Howe. Thank you both.
Thank you.